Law enforcement fights crime in our neighborhoods. The eyes and ears of the community can prove vital in these efforts. Stay vigilant. Your tip could crack the next case. This is a KLFY Plus exclusive. Acadiana Crimestoppers.
Welcome to this week's edition of Acadiana Crimestoppers, a show which partners law enforcement and community to help solve and prevent crime on our streets. In this episode, we will cover the crime of the week, parish by parish. We'll have a discussion also with Major Mark LeBlanc with the St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office about the new steps they are taking to fight opioid addiction in their jail. We begin in Acadia Parish, where authorities are looking for a suspect connected to a vehicle burglary at a home on Holly Lane. Here's Sheriff KP Gibson.
Detectives with the Crown Lake Police Department are investigating a vehicle burglary that occurred in the 1800 block of Holly Street. This incident took place on November 5th, 2025 at approximately 2:20 a.m. Two suspects were captured on video surveillance pulling on door handles in a residential neighborhood. One suspect was seen entering an unlocked vehicle. That suspect is described as a black male wearing black and white hooded jacket and long pants. Crimestoppers reminds you to remove your valuables and lock your doors. If you have information regarding this crime, yours call the tip sign at 789-TIPS or download our P3 app to report your tip. All callers will remain anonymous and can receive up to a $1,000 cash reward for information leading to arrest in this case. Be the difference. For Crimestoppers of Acadia Parish, I'm Sheriff KP Gibson.
If you have any information on this crime, call Crimestoppers at 789-TIPS. You could earn up to a $1,000 cash reward.
In St. Landry Parish, authorities need your help capturing a suspect wanted in connection with a deadly shooting in Opelousas. Here's more on the crime of the week.
You're watching St. Landry Crimestoppers.
Public Information Officer Joe Anderson with the Opelousas Police Department comes to Crimestoppers and asks your help in locating a fugitive. Cartel Anthony Gallia is alleged to have been involved in the recent homicide at Church and North Market Streets.
On December the 16th, 2025, at about 6:30 p.m., Opelousas police officers responded to a report of gunshots in the area of North Market Street and Church Street. Upon their arrival, officers discovered a vehicle with significant gunfire damage. The driver survived the incident, but the victim, Marquis Benjamin, was shot multiple times. On Saturday, December the 20th, 2025, Mr. Benjamin succumbed to his injuries. This has resulted in the charges being upgraded to second-degree murder. While one suspect, Dominique Trotter, has been arrested, Cartel Gallion remains at large. Cartel Gallion is a black male, 5'8" in height, about 150 pounds. If you have knowledge of the whereabouts of Mr. Gallion, do not approach him, but contact local authorities or Crimestoppers immediately.
If you have any information on the possible location of Cartel Gallion, call St. Landry Crimestoppers at 948-TIPS or remember to download our P3 app and tap the app to say it here and submit your anonymous tips. On behalf of the St. Landry Crimestoppers Board, the Opelousas Police Department, and Joe Anderson, the St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office, and Sheriff Bobby J. Guitros, thank you and have a blessed day.
If you have any information on this crime, call Crimestoppers at 948-TIPS. You could earn up to a $2,500 cash reward.
In Evangeline Parish this year will mark the opening of the brand new parish jail, which has been in development since 2022. News 10's Zane Hogue talks to the sheriff about when the project will be complete.
The multi-year process of getting a new jail built here in Evangeline Parish is nearing completion. As Sheriff Charles Guillory says, the new jail is just about ready for operation.
It's been a long, as they say, a long journey, and we're finally coming to the end. So I can't wait.
Guillory gave News 10 a tour of the 45,000 square foot facility, which will be able to house 200 inmates. The new jail is fully equipped with a full kitchen, recreation yards, and multiple cell blocks, which includes a women's only cell block and a juvenile housing unit.
It's going to help out a lot financially. We probably have about 40 pretrial inmates outside of Evangeline Parish, and we're paying 40 times $30 a day, and you can do the math. It's expensive. So we'll be able to bring those guys home, and also it's good for the family to visit them. They don't have to go anywhere. They can come right here and visit them.
With the finishing touches being put on the jail, like the no-climb fence and installing equipment in the central control room, Guillory looks forward to the future while thanking the people of the parish who helped fund this important project.
The people voted for it, so we have it. Finally becoming a reality, and I can't thank the public, the people even more. This is what we paid for. It wasn't just Charles Guillory, it's everybody in Evangeline Parish.
Guillory says the new jail should be 100% complete in early to mid-February. In Evangeline Parish, Zane Ho, KLFY News 10.
This is a KLFY Plus exclusive, Acadiana Crimestoppers.
Lafayette Crimestoppers and Lafayette Police are asking for your help identifying a suspect accused of using a stolen debit card. On the evening of November 3rd, the suspect approaches the ATM. The suspect then places the victim's stolen debit card into the slot and appears to type the PIN number. After making 3 withdrawals totaling $916, the suspect flees the scene, last seen traveling eastbound in the parking lot before leaving the camera's view. If you know the identity of the pictured suspect, please call Lafayette Crimestoppers at 232-TIPS. Human trafficking is happening closer to home than you think. Advocates say most victims are local. News 10's Bailey Liebert spoke with 2 organizations that are using Human Trafficking Awareness Month to push for awareness, prevention, and action.
This week, we will take in victims number 146, 147, and 148. Only 5 of our children have been international. The rest of them are local children. The amount of trafficking that goes on right under our nose, people would be horrified.
Advocates say traffickers increasingly use social media, gaming apps, and messaging platforms to target young people, often without parents ever realizing it's happening. At Hearts of Hope Children's Advocacy Center in Lafayette, staff work with youth as young as toddlers who've been impacted by abuse and trafficking.
We are seeing an uptick in things that are happening online, especially when we have social media such as Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and all those other websites, as well as Roblox.
Henderson says one of the biggest misconceptions is believing trafficking requires movement or strangers.
Trafficking does not include having to be transported from one location to another, as well as trafficking only happens to females. Trafficking happens to anyone.
Advocates say awareness months like this one help survivors realize they're not alone and help adults recognize when something isn't right. If you suspect trafficking, experts urge you to contact local law enforcement or child protection authorities immediately.
This is a KLFY Plus exclusive, Acadiana Crimestoppers.
We are here with Major Mark LeBlanc from the St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having us on.
So we covered it in the news recently, but I wanted to talk to you about this further. You guys are now teaching an opioid addiction class to inmates. You guys just had the first session. 12 inmates graduated from that program. Tell me a little bit about that, because I think it's a really good story that people need to hear.
Well, it works in conjunction with Woodlake Addiction Recovery Center. Mr. Matthew Corley and Mr. Noah Menard are 2 of the counselors that have been involved in it. And I would be remiss if I don't mention our own St. Landry Parish correctional staff, Major Lazar, Lieutenant Lewis, and Lieutenant Henry have been instrumental in working with the counselors, working with the inmates, providing all of the logistics necessary to get this done. And you're right, we had a great success with the first group. We call it Part 1. We had 12 inmates go through it. They received certificates. It is based on the 12-step principle used by Alcoholics Anonymous and other recovery groups that have decades of success.
So it's basically trying to break that cycle. That's what you were telling me, trying to break that opioid addiction cycle.
True. Everybody for many, many years talked about the recidivism rate in our jails. You try and help them to become productive citizens once they get out.
Yeah.
But part of it is the vast majority of these individuals suffer from some type of addiction, whether it's opioids, it's one of the most common now. And until you can help them, provide them the means to be able to break that cycle and to clear a pathway, this was the sheriff's words, to get all of the obstructions created by trauma, the opioid addiction, and give them a clear path that does not come back to jail.
Yeah, so it's going to lower recidivism in the long term.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the things they learn in this course?
Well, ultimately, they learn a tremendous amount about themselves, the causations of their addiction, their relationships that may have allowed it to continue unchecked, and it has a lot to do with an increment of faith, the Beatitudes, helping them to understand that they have to forgive themselves, and then they have to work toward finding a spiritual foundation. None of us are going to make it purely on our own. Having a support group, and essentially other tools that are going to facilitate them coming out of addiction on the good side of it.
Yeah, because most of the people, it seems, that turn to drugs are emotionally compromised. What I mean by that, they may have had something that happened in their life that was traumatic, or maybe they're going through something traumatic, and they turn to drugs as a coping mechanism. And what you're trying to say is we're trying to build up the person.
Exactly.
We're trying to build the person back up, and then them getting less dependent on opioids or not dependent on opioids at all, that will follow.
We're hoping so. Addiction and the battle of addiction is a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
And we're working toward setting them on that path, on that journey, giving them the tools and hopefully the support that they will need, allowing them to integrate into society. The two counselors are former addicts. So
wow.
They're not just there purely from the theoretical side of all of this. No, they've walked the walk.
Wow.
And it is rather profound. There are moments and certain sections of this training course that if you were present, it would probably be some of the most powerful emotional things you would ever experience.
That sounds so incredible. I would love to see it. And there are going to be multiple phases of this. You said there's going to be a part 2 and maybe a part 3.
I had an opportunity to speak to Sheriff Guitro just moments before heading out here. And I was unaware of this, but he kind of relayed that part 2 is about to start. But part 3 is going to be a pleasant surprise to many of our citizens. He has sincerely put forth resources. Our biggest problem with the first group, only 12, you don't have a lot of area for seating, tables to work at, what have you. Well, we have a trustee dorm. Well, during the daylight hours, the trustees are working. The dorm is mostly unused, and it has the capability of having dozens of people in it. So there are already being planned expansions and additions for this program.
Yeah, truly rehabilitation.
We're hoping so, yes.
This is such a great program. Any final statement that you would like to give about it?
Well, I will encourage, if other correctional centers don't have programs of this type, I would strongly recommend them to get in touch with the Woodlake Addiction Recovery Center, speak to their staff, get to know what is available, and I'm sure they have not just this program, but additional support methods that can help our inmates. You can't keep building larger jails. We have to intervene in some form or fashion and start to mitigate the problems before they develop and to effectively deal with the problems once we have them.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. Thank you so much for joining us today on Acadiana Crimestoppers, Major Mark LeBlanc.
On behalf of Sheriff Guitro, thank you very much for having me here.
We'll be right back.
This is a KLFY Plus exclusive, Acadiana Crimestoppers.
St. Martin Parish residents can now register for free basic handgun classes. There are 2 classes this month. They will be held at the St. Martin Parish Sheriff's Office Firearm Training Center on Francois Road in St. Martinville. Here's a look at the items you will need for the class. You must bring a weapon, 150 rounds, cleaning kit, eye protection, and ear protection with you. Class will begin at 8 a.m. You must pre-register and be 21 years or older to attend. Our partnership with law enforcement continues next week. Join us as we show you more wanted fugitives throughout Acadiana. Lafayette City Marshal Reggie Thomas will be back with us for the new year. He'll be highlighting what suspects he is looking for currently. Plus, he'll break down the stats and how they did last year in terms of clearing warrants. We appreciate you tuning in to Acadiana Crime Stoppers exclusively on KLFY+. We will be back next week detailing the latest crimes to be solved and perps to bring to justice.